G'day traders, welcome to wrap up of November 17th, Thursday. Started today with a bit of a downside bias. Overall, looking at the dailies, the market's still very much in this sideways and it's bouncing in between a range and forming a bit of a wedge, so hard to have a real Pacific bias. You still got to believe that it's very much two-sided action and the buyers or the sellers could definitely come in at any stage, but just over the last day and a half or so there has been some sellers. The pre-market did sell off a little bit as well. So I thought, chance to get definitely sellers at some stage during the day. So you can see here the market's pushed down to start off with. It's pulled back. This PowerPoint here is one I talk about a little bit, where quite often if it's going with your bias or your belief where the market's going, this first pullback can be a bit of a goer, but you can see in the end it's pushed straight through it. There's no red candles there, so it'd be hard to get on it anyway. It's kind of one you'd leave alone, but definitely one to watch and can quite often work. But you can see the market's pushed straight through. It's then bounced between PowerPoints here, and here's the yesterday's gap as well, so it's acting as a bit of a magnet and resistant area. And basically this kind of action here is just typical of the dailies at the moment. No Pacific action, it's just bouncing between PowerPoints and hasn't actually picked a trend yet. Had a 5-minute signal come up in this area here as well, but one would be definitely worth leaving alone. As you can see, there's no direction or no Pacific market action. Nothing, you're not convinced at this stage. You've got to ask yourself, do I feel confident with the buyers or the sellers? And at this stage, right up until basically past 10:45, 11 o'clock, there's no Pacific direction and very hard to pick a direction. So that stage, you see here, it's pushed up high and then started to pull back. And you can see all of a sudden now we're starting to get into a bit of a range, starting to show a bit more believable movement. So the market's pulled down to this PowerPoint here. So a bit of a testing area, this one. It's kind of an area where it's either going to bounce up, which is what it did, or if it decides to break down and push through this and break these lows over here, it's an area where the sellers could have come in. But in the end it's turned around, they've pushed up. We've actually got a 5-minute entry up around here. So this is actually a good area, good classic area where the market goes up, pulls back, buys around and starts pushing up, and it's a good chance it's going to come up and go up around these highs or test these highs. Just the entry was a little bit awkward. Normally we like to take these with power fade entries, so maybe an opportunity just to get in a little bit early. But in the end, the signal as is went, I think, right on 8 ticks, so it would have been probably a break-even trade anyway. But overall, hopefully you can see it is quite a good area. So from there, just get this charts right. So from there we've hit a pretty much lunchtime period here, and this is where the market really started to sell off. It sold off very quickly, which you'll see in a second. In looking at the 5-minute chart, this is where the predictive started to cross over here. Okay, all of a sudden this particular area here, there's a lot of pressure to the downside. We saw these pretty steep red candles here as well, and at the time watching this particular power fade, kind of had to be on the ball, but this is kind of one I thought had a bit of value. The fact that there's definitely sellers around had a downside bias. I thought at some stage the sellers going to come in, and looking at other charts, other markets, and also definitely on the predictive and the 5-minute charts, all of a sudden it really started to switch to the downside here. So this is an area to look to break the lows, which is what it did, and it broke really heavy. You can see there, pretty much within the space of 45 minutes, it's dropped from 12.30 area down to 12.10, so it dropped over 20 points in the space of 40 minutes, so a massive sell-off. If you didn't get on it right up at the top, there wasn't any chance really to get on, because from there was no pullbacks. The only other, apart from the power fade, was this area here. It came about 2-3 ticks from a power point, so this is a good power point where it's broken the lows, and it's going to have a quick pullback. Quite often a good power point to get on and look for it to go lower and make lower lows, which it definitely did in this particular case. And then from there it's bounced between power points, and for the entire afternoon we didn't have very much large movement, just within range movement where it bounced in between power points. Very difficult to take advantage of these situations. There was an area here where we almost had a 5-minute sell. So I didn't really like it here. It was coming up, I thought it was an area where it was a little bit unsure of what the market wanted to do, but the actual signal didn't end up coming there. Then it did come round about here, so a little bit of a better situation. You can see it's pushed a little bit lower, show that the sellers were around, and in the end did make lower lows, so that particular signal worked there. You know, not a bad area, but not necessarily the best area, just because you can see it is quite congested, and you'd only want to take it if you had a lot of confidence that the sellers were going to come in and go and make lower lows, which I guess, considering the day, was definitely a possibility. And you can see the markets just continue to push, nothing really happening. Another 5-minute sell just around here, which worked as well. So you're seeing a lot of these 5-minute trades are working, and that's kind of typical of the 5-minute trades, because they'll go through patches where they all work and then patches where none will work. So basically we've just come out about a month where they really struggled to work, and then all of a sudden this week we've seen a lot of them working, so maybe expect over the next few weeks a few more 5-minute signals to work. But overall, what you've got to do with the 5-minute trades is, even if they're working or not working, at the end of the day you've got to look for the really good entry points based around the power points, and just have a bit of a strategy where even if the 5-minute trades as is are not working particularly well, you've got a strategy so that you can still make them work in your favour and pick those good entries. So yeah, continue to go sideways here. Another 5-minute trade, which will stop out here, another sell. So you can see by this stage it's very much going sideways, and no confidence either way which way the market wants to go, so leave all kind of signals alone at this stage. And then you can see it's just pushed up a little bit and closed there. So quite an uneventful afternoon, even though it moved around, but it was very much in a tight range and very difficult to take advantage of any opportunities. Got the 5-minute chart here. So that was that first signal that came up, very congested area, no solid direction either way, so one to leave alone. This one here was a little bit of definitely a better area. Just as long as you get a better entry, a good one to take, as you get the pullback and it looked to push for highs. Then it sold off really quickly. So if you wanted to get on this sell-off, and you have to be pretty quick to get on it, you want to get on in this area here, the power fade entry here, or when it pushed down then had this pullback here, is probably the other opportunity to get on it, but happened quite fast and a little bit difficult to get on it. Then there's these 3 sells, so this particular sell here worked, then this sell here worked, and then another sell which didn't work, but all in quite congested areas. Righto, that's a wrap up for Thursday.